whoever are in the waiting room, and so then you can start off. Great. We like what's that?
Good morning, everyone. Once again, from I'm Ranu Parwal. I'm Ranu Parwal from Accura Solutions and Skills Connect, and happy to see you all again on the Saturday morning for our webinar series or the knowledge series, which we've been doing it continuously for the last few years. Skills Connect is our campus hiring platform, which connects 10,000 plus campuses across 1,000 plus cities and helping a lot of corporates to hire digitally from all over the campuses. And I also have my team members, Vicky Jain, who manages, who's basically the CEO and the founder of one of the smartest HRMS platform, Unova HRMS. And there's a big news which is expected to come in soon while there are few announcements in the media. I also have Sunil Kabra, who addresses the gig economy's opportunities and has been providing a lot of solutions around gig economy. With our tech platform, there are multiple solutions that we're trying to build around the gig economy or the solutions around the contractual staffing. Last few years have been quite eventful. We had a COVID wave, which had a lot of uncertainty, including a complete lockdown. Then we had a Russia-Ukraine war, and now there's a global slowdown, and we're talking about some banks going burst. The only certainty is the uncertainty. To add on, the tech has become another disruptor. Just think of it, a chat GPT kind of a solution talks about the survival of a might like a Google within a day. Think of uncertainty all over the place and think of businesses, how do they run the businesses and the challenges for HR. Few years back, I'm talking about a few decades back, we were talking about the major action was inside the strategy room or the mergers and acquisition rooms, which then moved into the tech, and people were talking about tech solutions. And now there's an edge and the focus, which is completely also around the human capital and hence inside the HR department. Today, the HR teams are continuously evaluating tools and platforms for each stage of the business. And when we talk about each stage of the business, right from the talent pipeline to the talent hiring, talent management, L&D, employee engagement, even predicting exits, there are various tools which is across the spectrum of the entire human capital life cycle, right from your onboarding, pre-onboarding, creating a talent pipeline, creating a capability models. There are multiple kinds of ATS or the application tracking systems available. There are campus hiring solutions like Skills Connect. There are comprehensive HRMS platforms like Unova, each one trying to do additional or something extra to give more solutions or decision-making powers to the HR. There are various assessment tools. I've been talking to a few HR heads across the organizations and across the companies, which says they don't want to get the biased interviews from the senior most business heads. And they think, and they've been continuously pushing with a lot of analytics, with the solution that assessment tools work better than you guys in terms of taking the decision on interviewing people. And believe me, these are being implemented inside the organizations and be making it as a way of life. There are AI-based, artificial intelligence-based hiring tools. Anytime learning has become the mantra, unlike you identifying the box and trying to say that these guys would be trained, it's available for all. The HR is evaluating multiple tools, technology solutions through the day. With each new idea, there are challenges as well for the HR. Right from managing them, right from upgrading the people, outsourcing, and at times parting ways with the existing staff. The topic for the day, partnership of HR and the tech to bring the excellence, tries to cover the synergies between the HR tech and also covers the dynamism within the HR department that's coming in. To the extent that today, for any important decision, HR, which was considered to be a support function, is now strategically very critical for the business to take into consideration. Let me now introduce our speakers, and of the speakers, I'm sure we have some eminent speakers for which whatever we say would be less because they've got multiple accolades with them. The first speaker, I come from Deutsche Bank, and so my regards for her and knowing the system and the kind of best practices that we had. Our first speaker is Madhvi Lal, Head Human Resources at Deutsche Bank, and she has been there almost for 7.5 years with Deutsche Bank. She's been there for more, she's got more than 30 years of experience and has worked in various organizations like Accenture, Standard Chartered Bank, ABN AMRO, Colgate, HCL, Hewlett-Packard, and GlaxoSmithKline. She's a mathematics graduate from St. Stephen's College and an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. She's also completed a leadership management course from Oxford University. She has conferred Women's Leadership Award by the Jury and Council of Board Members of Institute of Public Enterprises, PFSI, in 21. She has also got the award. She has also been conferred the Distinguished Alumnus Award for XLRI in 2016. Madhvi is a member of CII National Committee of Leadership and HR and was the chairperson CII India Women Network Western Region for 2021. She's among the list of top 50 HR influencers for 2020 and top 50 HR thought leaders for 2022 in HR leadership. I think the introduction can continue because there's a lot more to talk and there are a lot more awards which are coming your way. I'm happy to have you, Madhvi, on the forum, and I'm personally looking forward to hear from you on the insights and on the topic we're going to discuss.
Thank you so much, Ranu.
Our other speaker is Nitin Khurana, the Global Talent Acquisition Head at Indegene. He has over 2 decades of experience into talent acquisition space. He's worked with organization which has by now become one of the large organizations in the IT space for almost a decade and more with Genpact, and moved across the ladder at Genpact and brought in a lot of best practices out there, and then moved to head global talent acquisition for Indegene, which has a strong focus in the healthcare space. He's been working across the HR metrics from acquisition, enablement, operations excellence, cost optimization, digitization, and automation. He's on his vacation, and we were fortunate to have him speak for the forum. And I'm very happy to have Nitin, you on the forum today for us to speak.
Thanks.
Without taking much time, Nitin, please.
No, thanks. I think it's always great to speak at such forums. So happy to take our time on vacations also to come and join you all. So yeah, looking forward to it.
It's our pleasure. I'll hand it over to Bistriti to take the discussion further. Bistriti heads the corporate communications for us, and again, she's got multiple awards, and she's been awarded as one of the most powerful women in one of the forums recently by Economic Times. So over to you, Bistriti.
Thank you, Ranu. Welcome, a big welcome to both Madhvi and Nitin. I'm very excited to be hosting the webinar today again with a lovely set of people on a Saturday afternoon. So dear listeners, I would also like to remind all of you that we are recording this webinar and it's also being streamed live on YouTube as I speak. You're welcome to share it with your peers and associates even after the broadcast ends. So let's start without further ado. Well, did you hear all about the recent news? A growth consulting firm recently conducted a survey revealing that the global HR tech market is expected to soar to a whopping $35 billion by 2028, and all thanks to the AI revolution. This industry was valued at $24 billion in 2021, which means it's predicted to grow at a staggering 5.8% CAGR between 2022 to 2028. This explosive growth rate is putting immense pressure on HR professionals, industry leaders, and the workforce to stay ahead in this rapidly transforming sector. In the midst of this projection, what kind of tech solutions, Madhvi, this is for you to start with, do you think are being used in the talent building exercise? And are there any separate tools from freshers to the lateral and at the top management? And then Nitin, you can pitch in and share your views as well. Madhvi, let's start with you.
First of all, thank you so much, Ranu, for inviting me for this session. And I learn as much as I can share as well on this. I look forward to hearing from Nitin, and I think, Visruti, your sort of information on the valuation, of course, is staggering. And therefore, this topic is really relevant for anybody who wants to be successful in HR. So coming to your question, really, see, for me, I'll sort of probably bring the practitioner view into all this. I think when you talk about tech solutions for talent building, I think the first step for me as an HR person would be to say, what are the strategic needs for the business first, okay? And then look at what is the kind of talent that we need to meet those, those strategic needs. And that's my sort of first step that I would have in the whole exercise. And today, I think all of you know, and I don't have to say, all of you are probably HR professionals on this, the race for talent is really, really very competitive. It's become even more competitive right now. You go to a campus, any organization gets about 150 applications, for maybe 2 or 3 roles that they have, right? So, and that of course was even there earlier, but even more, I think, because the number of institutes that have gone up, in the country is huge. Most companies are investing in India, so there's the same companies are fighting for the same talent. So obviously, in this scenario, if you're not sort of tech enabled, you're going to have a problem. In the olden days, where you got the CVs, you kind of actually went through each CV and then you mark cross and tick and whatever. That doesn't work anymore. I mean, and that's one of the things. The second is, look at the generation that's coming into the workforce. They were all born with a tablet, in their hands, right? If you're not going to tech enable your processes, they're not going to come and work with you because that's what they are used to, right? So, so that's my sort of starting premise, that it's, of course, your strategic business needs, what's the kind of talent you need, what is the talent looking for? And then, of course, your tech sort of enablement on that. I think from my point of view, the tools that are currently available on talent, management for the freshers, I think are fabulous. There are just so many in the market. It's sometimes difficult to evaluate which one is the best. But I think obviously what we do when we look at those tools is, how much of the process is automated, how much of it can improve our talent pipeline management. We're also exploring whether we can use AI to, sort of, I know most companies are trying to do that, to sort of, even source the shortlist the CVs, right? And of course, I think the whole bit around the recruitment itself, the interview process itself, how much can you automate? And I think that's something that we're sort of, looking at. So for the freshers, it's more about volumes. It's more about what's the most intelligent way that we can shortlist and source. And sometimes you feel that, are you using the right sourcing sort of requirements? And therefore, when you're developing a tech tool, are you really clearly identifying what kind of talent you need? And that's I think even before the technology comes into play, it's about identifying those parameters that kind of can be sometimes a challenge, right? And I think your question was, are there different technology and enablements for across layers of the organization? Yes, definitely. Because at the entry level, it's about a volume game, and you don't want to miss out the good talent. That's one. And of course, the whole screening process, how much can you automate, and how can you do the value-based interviewing online, etc. At the senior leadership, it's more about, while you do use technology, but it's about more one-to-one interviews, more sort of, fit for the sort of the requirements you have at leadership level. So that's where I would say, I hope I've answered your question.
And very well. So Nitin, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I concur with Madhvi to a large extent. I think we all understand that technology has changed the entire spectrum of HR solutions. And clearly also there is no one solution approach to everything. You have AI-based HRMS system, ATS, reporting and analytics system, chatbots, name it, and it's there. And all are available practically in this space. I think what's important is for organizations and HR to see what really suits them, what gives them the solution, what is suiting their business needs, and which will give them the best ROI. And the idea is to, take on technology not to be ready for today, but ready for tomorrow, ready for future. Hence, the solutions have to be kept in mind accordingly. And when you're looking at uh, technologies enabling it, I recall something that I read in school a long time back, is that one should follow something looking at what is viable for you and not just follow because it's a trend. And that's very important for all HRs to understand. What you take on as technology should be able to take you to the next level, and take you to the next level from a future perspective, not for today, not just for tomorrow, but 5 years, 10 years ahead. Think from those perspective, then your ROI is going to be much better. Then you're going to have an edge in terms of not only bringing in talent from talent acquisition perspective, but I think now it's paramount to ensure that talent is being developed in that fashion through learning and development, and then being nurtured over a period of time through talent management. And trust me, there is a spectrum of technology platforms all out there. Sometimes it becomes overwhelming. It's like a big mall. You go and you get everything. Very important for you to rationalize what is your need. How do you want to really pick and choose the right things? And clearly, because it's not a one-stick approach to everything, clearly, whether it is freshers, laterals, or senior management, there are tools that are curated specifically to bring in talent, nurture talent, and take them to the next level also altogether in the system. So, it's the entire life cycle of HR for that matter.
Awesome. What a great start to the discussion. Very, very impressive answers and very, very insightful inputs. And that got me thinking that the demand for digital skills and future-ready talent is rapidly changing and transforming. So without AI tools and predictive analysis, it's difficult to gauge what skills we will need our workforce to get equipped with or have hands-on knowledge of, right? So, however, Nitin, what do you think is the current role of HR in making the top talent future-ready?
I think every talent is top in my mind. Everybody is trainable. I strongly believe in that. I think HR today needs to think and behave like business and not really as a support function, if you really ask me, right? Hence, the role that they play is super critical to understand the skill landscape for future, the talent market, need of talent, and tying this up, all of this with the organization blueprint, whether it is hiring of folks with aptitude and attitude more than really how they score, or managing the learning quotient, and to even ensure that are they well connected in the growing system, not just in terms of ranks, but in terms of knowledge. Hence, having HR having an approach which is very nimble and agile in its approach to create that balance for meeting the current needs, but also sowing seeds for future is very important. I think personally, a very short-term myopic view hurts an organization more than it does good. You can bring in talent, you can train them, retain them, but it doesn't work very from a long-term perspective. Hence, creation of a good ecosystem which is ready for future is clearly the need of the hour, and that's where the HR plays a very, very critical role.
Very true. Madhvi, what are your thoughts on this one?
No, I absolutely agree with Nitin, and something I mentioned earlier as well, about HR needs to be aligned to the business strategy, right? I think we in HR cannot do things in isolation. I think it has to be aligned to the business. And I think from my point of view, I think HR, and again, I agree with him on the top talent. I think everybody's talent. I have this very favorite thing I say at every conversation that I have, is that nobody comes into work trying to mess up. You get up in the morning and say, today I'm going to go mess up at work, right? Everybody comes in charged into work. So I think everybody's talent, and I think it is up to the manager, the organization, to get the best out of that person. But keeping to your question on technology, I think as businesses also are grappling with this whole thing about possibilities of technology impacting their business, and what I think that HR has a very key role to play. I think we need to support the business and the people by trying to close the gaps of understanding that there are. And I think to my mind, I was talking to my learning head about the session, and she gave me this thing, and she said, we try to close the gaps via the 3 E's, One is education, which is skill building. Then is giving people experience and exposure. So the 3 E's, that HR can help people and the businesses understand the possibilities of technology impacting their business. I think it's a key role to play for HR. And at the same time, HR also being themselves aware about how technology can impact their own work, right?
Very true. Nitin, can you please share with me your thoughts on how can HR professionals ensure that they have the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively use and manage HR tech in their organizations?
See, I think learning is a journey which everyone needs to take, and what brings a person to a particular point wouldn't take it to the next, and that holds true for HR as well, right? They need to continue to hone their skills to support the organization future need and obviously their own as well. Tech space, understanding what are the trends coming up, multiple spheres of knowledge that come with a lot of interaction, doing networks, going through a lot of now there are a lot of white papers, a lot of articles that are published on a regular basis. All that will not only create a person from a readiness perspective, but opens a mindset. I continue to stress this a lot in terms of people that I interact with. Every day the tech space in HR is getting involved, right? Even the technologies are evolving. So should definitely be the knowledge. So nothing prescriptive, if I were to say, but I think in specific, everybody needs to have an open mindset. So as long you have an open mindset, there is no right or wrong which says that, am I ready for tomorrow or not ready for tomorrow, right? So having right networks, reading a lot, getting to know what's going around in the market, and not currently, but what are the new things that are coming across, right? There was a time where cryptocurrency was not even looked at. Now it's there. UPI payments was a thought of the future. We used to look at James Bond movies and think that, hey, how is the person tracking where the person is going? Now Google Maps and stuff, technologies there. So what I'm essentially trying to portray here is that HR needs to look at future things, and there is enough transformation, disruption that's happening that will not only equip you from a knowledge perspective, but the idea is to get you a mindset which is very open in nature. Yeah.
Awesome. Madhavi, talk to me about your insights on this one.
I would kind of echo some of the stuff that Nitin has said. I think keep abreast of what's happening in your world, right, on HR. And I think there's just so much material available on HR tech. You just go online and read. I think to each one in their own jobs, I think we need to look at our job and say, okay, this process is working in a particular way. Can it be done in a better way? Is there a technology available to enable it? Now, obviously, if you may or may not be able to invest in the technology, but understanding like I said earlier, understanding the possibilities of technology, I think is the first step. Second is, if there's a true business case to invest in that, make that business case, get the investments, And I think there's just so many examples, especially I think during COVID, where, people sort of changed their whole paradigm around some of the, use of technology. For example, virtual interviews. Before pandemic, do you think any line manager would have been okay with doing virtual interviews? They would not have been, right? So I think there are things that we probably need to, I think we have to think about the possibilities, think about what makes sense, what can be done, how we can, sort of use technology in our processes. We're right now looking at our onboarding experience, right? So obviously, right from the time the job requisition goes online to when the employee, the candidate applies, to the experience the candidate goes through, and to onboarding. And I think how do we make that whole experience, very good for the candidate? I think it's something we have to use technology, because we hire 6,000 people every year, and of course for 6,000 you have to interview. I don't even have to tell you the numbers we have to interview, and of course getting back to people who are not shortlisted. All that thing we're trying to see whether we can tech enable and still make it a sort of a good experience for the people who are applying to us.
Absolutely. I would also like to know, Madhavi, from you, that how can HR technology help to streamline and automate HR processes such as recruitment, onboarding, and performance management? That's my next up for you.
Lots of ways, definitely. I think recruitment, onboarding, performance management. Okay, let me talk about recruitment. I think there's just so much available, and there's so much technology we have implemented, and it's also still available. I think there's always room for improvement on just simplifying and sort of making the hiring process more modern and more relevant to our candidate profile, right? And I think before I go into the three areas you talked about, I think for me, from my point of view, I think when we look at HR tech, we try to look at one solution for one process, but ultimately you have to integrate all those processes into one from an employee point of view. So that part, I think, just keep at the back of your mind. But on the recruitment bit, there is just so much you can do in terms of the whole application management process. You can automate that, because, earlier we used to manually write to the candidate. Now, can you automate that process a bit? Can you automate the interview setting up process, so that, the candidate and the line manager and everybody knows when it's all automated. It's in the system, on the calendars automatically. We can also automate the background checks, and that, I think, something we are working through. How do we make that more sort of seamless? So on the recruitment, the sourcing can be automated. The onboarding, I think a lot of automation can be done. A lot of it will be human intervention, but a lot of it can be onboarded. And there's still, I think, technologies that can help, but still, I think we are expecting more of technology right now to enable that. Performance management, obviously, there is a system that every company has, and it's fairly automated. The employee sort of puts in their objectives, their achievements, and the line manager assessment is also on the system. So it's all on record, right? I mean, so I think a lot can be done on that. So I think it's just, for me, the biggest thing is that there is HR tech available for various processes. It is about what you want to integrate, what you want to improve, and what is the outcome of that? What's the ROI of doing that investment? I think very important. So when you're looking at a tech tool for any of these, look at what's the ROI. Does it meet the business needs? Does it meet the employee experience needs? And therefore, is it worth the investment, is what I would say. I don't know if I've answered your question. I've gone a little off, but broadly, that's what I thought I'll share.
No, you have. And Nitin, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think, see, end-to-end automation is possible as on date. Completely end-to-end automation in the HR world. I think the tech and platform space has grown so rapidly that clearly it's not something which is good to have anymore. It's a must-have. And any organization that wants to grow, scale, bring in higher efficiency, and clearly a wow experience for your employees or your future hires need to have the right technology set with them, right? And I personally believe being future ready is not just implementation of various technologies and platforms, right? It's more of a mindset. And it's important to evaluate the need with the vision in mind, for being future ready, and being future ready now, not tomorrow. And I must caution also that merely adopting technology doesn't solve for anything, right? Technology is really a catalyst which helps you transform effectively in the right fashion. I think it's important for HR professionals to understand what really works for them, what works more for the organization from a tomorrow perspective, and then pick and choose the right technologies. Madhvi's been, echoing the point that think about the ROI, think about what really works. At the end of the day, technology is not just imbibing it. It's also an investment that organization makes and clearly needs to have an ROI around it. So evaluating what's aligned with the organization vision and checking what works, I think that's what helps you streamline all of the HR processes. And you've got to really see which works for you, which doesn't work for you.
Absolutely. I conform to your expert advice. Adding to it, I would say it's not enough to streamline only core HR functions at this day and age. Rather, we must also start digitizing the growth metrics with currently available smarter HR technologies, I believe. Madhavi, I would also like to know, how do you think that HR tech can be used to enhance employee engagement, retention, and satisfaction?
So I think in lots of ways, how much time do I have, Vistriti? I can talk about this for a long time.
Take your time, take your time.
No, I just try and keep it a little brief. I think there's lots of ways that, and you talk about retention, satisfaction. I think most companies now have employee satisfaction surveys, right? Where they actually reach out to employees on a confidential basis. Employees share the feedback, I think. And I think that's all tech enabled. And even the analysis now has become tech enabled, right? Where you get a summary of what people are saying, and you can, I guess, automate the actions as well, right? So I think the tech platform gives you a lot of insights into why people are joining, why are people staying, and why are people leaving, and what makes them, satisfied, what makes them bring that extra effort in at their work, right? What keeps them engaged and motivated, right? I think that those insights are very valuable to managers and to leaders to to hear what people are saying and then take the action. So I think your actions become more relevant. I mean, of course, there are these softer elements of doing focus groups, etc. But what happens is that that is important, definitely, because while we're talking a lot about tech, we have to remember that at the end of that process is a human being, and each human being is very, very different. What may motivate me may not motivate Nitin, and something else may motivate him and not motivate me. But what tech does is at least gives you an overall picture of what the trends are looking like. You can address a large majority through those actions that people are giving you feedback on. Of course, then your individual connection, of course, is very, very important.
Absolutely. Nitin, would you like to share your insights on this as well, please?
Yeah, I'll probably keep it short. See, I think platforms now help sense employee level of engagement with a lot of activities, right, within the organization. Their interest that they show in different events, the type of responses that they make, the way they interact with each other, the way they network within the organization. And all of these are largely indicative, with further needs a lot of interpretation. So while a technology can be implemented, to engage, retain, and improve on satisfaction, those are clear indicators. Then that's where the HR piece comes into the picture, where you've got to interpret and see how does it apply. Like Madhvi mentioned, what applies to me could not apply to the next person, right? So technologies will enable a lot of those indicators. Now, how we interpret those indicators and implement it, and clearly there is way a lot of technology, whether it is on engagement, retention. I mean, retention goes with attrition. Everybody is really more bothered about how it goes and stuff like that. But I think what is important is when you're implementing a technology, one side is your organization's ROI and you becoming modern and transforming. The other side has to be by heart about people. HR is all about people. Hence, when you're bringing in a technology, how is that technology helping not HR succeed in the matrix or monitor and implement the matrix, but really creating that impact? A lot of times we're more bothered about how things will work rather than the outcome. I think the impact on the organization and people, that's what is important for us to really look at that. And there is a lot that is there in the market to enhance of those stuff.
Nitin, I just want to add, I think, Nitin, I really like the point that you made. Sometimes we tend to think how our life in HR can be made easier by this, but I think we've got to not only have the HR lens on it, we have to have the business lens, the employee lens. A really, really good point. Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.
So when we talk about smarter HR tech solutions, we cannot stop thinking about the involvement of AI and how it is changing the HR ecosystem from hire to retire. So Nitin, I would like to know your 2 cents on what role do you think can data analytics and AI play in HR, and how can they be used to improve decision-making and organizational performance?
Let me start with saying that every technology in the market is not AI based. I think that's a term that's a little loosely used in the market. AI, machine learning, deep learning, the keywords, the trend words and stuff like that. But I think gone are those days of basic trackers and data points. We now have highly evolved analytics system in place, which not only really reflect trends, options and permutation combination, but it also help in decision making. And for any leader or HR person, decision making is very critical because it has a long-term impact. Hence, the more well they are equipped with information which is data backed and not anecdotal, the more effectively they can take those decisions. Data is gold these days, right? In today's world, if you ask me, and analytics is actually the furnace that makes it shines and make it the way worth it. I would want to put it in a nutshell.
Sure. Madhvi?
No, I think I echo what Nitin says. I think just the whole data that's available, it helps managers understand, really the trends that are there for the existing talent, for new talent that's coming in. I think it also helps you figure out what you're spending on people, and also I think the pay equity piece, I think that has become so enabled through the analysis. I think, for me, the AI and the data analytics bit is around, leadership and the senior leadership being able to get some actionable insights, from employees and then address the gaps, right? That is what I would look at. I just want to share one example of where we as an organization have, an AI-enabled platform, which is something called the Learning Hub, which we launched sometime last year. And what this learning hub is, it's learning on the go. So, it's a voluntary thing. You go into the learning hub, you log in your sort of whatever interests. There are various options. You have a 15-minute learning module, you have a 30-minute learning module, you have a 1-hour learning module. You also have longer, sessions which you can attend. You have also in-person sessions which you can sign up for, subject to, of course, what relevance they have to your role. And you actually start developing your own learning pathway. And what happens in the back end of the platform is that it's AI enabled. So what happens is, depending on how I have put in my sort of interest over the last 6 months, it will pop up options and solutions for me that are relevant to what I have put as my interest. So I think that's really, for me, I think great, because I don't always have to go and search for that learning, right? So sometimes I get a pop-up saying, you had said you're interested in this. This is a new thing which has come on. Would you be interested? And if you're interested, you sign up for it. So I think there is just so much. I think it's amazing, because it will help more personalized learning, and it'll be a little bit of, a pull also to that platform. People will sign up because they'll get a pop-up saying, this is what you asked for. Here it is. Would you be interested? And I think it's just amazing to see that happening.
Yeah, and it's more like the shopping experience. AI is not just here; it's there. At the moment you go on Amazon, it starts throwing out things. That you go on Facebook, it starts throwing out. That's true AI in some sense, right? And that's what happens. And to what Madhvi was saying, I think now it's not the time of only push learning and push strategies. It's a lot of pull strategies. People have started to understand how can they enable themselves rather than being spoon-fed or being done everything from an organization perspective. We're dealing with a set of mindsets now which carry a very different way of operating. Earlier learnings used to be classroom based. Now they are small blogs or inserts, small videos, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. All those things make a lot of difference. And see, there is no right and wrong approach to all these things. It's how well you really take on and have the analytics engine really support you to adopt and adapt to the various needs that you have.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with both of y'all. Madhvi, I would want you to guide us on how can the partnership between HR and tech be optimized to achieve excellence in HR management and organizational performance?
No, it's really important, Visruti, and I think it's a very good question. So, because technology has technological expertise, they know what they can deliver in terms of coding or program, or what can be AI enabled, what can't be, right? And HR has the HR expertise of what are the process details, what's the what exactly do they want out of that process and that that initiative, right? So I think that partnership is really important. I think it's very important for both to have an understanding of each other. I mean, of course, you can't have both can't get expertise in both areas, but I think important to have that education between the two. So we in Deutsche Bank have an HR tech team that works with HR on our process. So we have a dedicated HR tech team which works only with us with the HR function to see how we can enable, automate, build more digital solutions to our HR processes. And I think that understanding is really important, because sometimes when we say that we want this enabled, and we try to explain the process to them, and then they ask us questions: why is this process needed, and can you cut it shorter? So I think those kind of dialogues and have to happen. I think one of the things that we have to be really clear about, I think I mentioned it in my earlier answer, is that when we are articulating what we want out of that HR solution, I think we have to be very, very clear, and that I think that itself has to be thought through. Because once you've given that requirement or the specification to technology and they enable it, and because it does take time, right, building something like this, and then you can go back saying, no, we didn't want this, we wanted this, So I think that constant sort of conversation and needs to happen. That's my view.
Yeah, brilliant. Nitin, would you like to share some thoughts on this with all of us here?
Yeah, I would tweak the question a little bit. Right. I would say it's not really a partnership between HR and technology. It's between the organization and the technology, because none of the HR practices or technology involvements that you're going to do is going to be without business, or if the entire spokes of the wheel need to get connected together to really bring about a good partnership with technology. You can't adopt something in one area and not have an impact on the other. It definitely has a ripple effect. To like what Madhvi mentioned, know your goals, know what's your blueprint, evaluate where you stand against that future that you want to be, not today, right? Prioritize areas that need attention first, and so on, because there is so much available there. You got to know what you want to prioritize and how do you want to move on around it. Look at what's going to be the return of investment. Think really long term, if you would ask me, and accordingly take the decision. I think keeping that mindset open, that nothing is cast in stone, and nothing is permanent. Even if the decisions and technology that we're taking today, I could adopt a technology today, might become irrelevant 6 months, 1 year down the line, and hence, a long-term process. And so this is more of an evolving process, I would say. And this gets, the partnership really gets optimized when you not only think about the benefits about yourself, but more for the organization and the future employees. I think when you think of that larger goal, you start building a partnership with technology in that fashion. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you both of you all for sharing such insightful responses. Our audience, I'm sure, will undoubtedly benefit from your invaluable insights. And to take this line of thought further, we already have some questions from our audience from the chat box. Sunil, would you like to take this further, please?
Thank you, Bistuti. Very good morning to everyone. And we have been getting a very good, smart insights from Madhvi and Nitin on the current topic, which we are having a webinar. Some smart questions have come from our audience. I'm just taking some of them. One question is from Narendra. While we keep adopting platforms, I have seen even the HR finds accepting platforms like Workday or Oracle and find Excel model to be better, of course. Nobody can be kept away from Excel or MS Office. How do you manage the HR and then the business to align? Don't you think implementing the tech becomes a larger problem than doing business at times? Nitin, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I would say sometimes it's important to understand how much you can chew, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I mentioned at the onset is adopting technology doesn't mean just going blindly after it and implementing. There are practically every sphere in the HR arena that you can implement technology. Knowing what to prioritize, knowing what to do, and you correctly mentioned, Naren, it's not about adopting a technology. Change management is a different ball game altogether, and I think that's very important. How much of a technology is going to be successful is also a lot about change management. And like Madhi mentioned, even we at Endtoend have a HR tech team, but we have also POCs from different business areas, different functions, which work together to make it successful. It is not a problem for one, or it is not a solution for one. Hence, the more you bring in people together, the more effective change management happens, and hence your chewing process becomes much more easier on technology, and you're able to drive a better outcome. Yeah.
True. Technology is an enabler. Okay. So one has to look at perspective. Exactly. Madhvi, would you like to give some insights?
I just want to add that, see, various technologies have various uses. So Workday has its own use, and Excel, of course, has its own use. So I think, again, for me, it would be like, what are you using what for? I mean, so if you want to do calculations, you want to do simulations, then Excel is the tool that you will use. Or there are other tools now available which are probably better than Excel as well, as what I understand. But Workday is more an HRMS. So I think it is about what are you going to use that tool for, and what are you investing in it is what I was.
And I'll just like to add also over here, since we're talking much about tech, and the question could also be like looking at the horizon. For example, I would say take Excel is good for setting up personal discipline. Okay, I can put the numbers and I can have analytics, and the horizon is personal or my team. But when you talk about bigger systems, the horizon is for the entire organization. For example, you can induce organizational level discipline through a system, not through Excel. So that's how I would answer that particular question from my end as well. Just wanted to add my thoughts on this.
Thanks, Vicky. We have next questions from Sailendra. What would be the right measure or standards to evaluate HR and tech success? I mean, I think he's trying to find out how How do you measure the success that now we are
KPIs, yeah.
enabled?
I think first it's important to understand what you want. What does your organization need, right? Your metrics are going to be dependent on that. How you're going to measure and what is the benchmark you're going to be keeping for each of those metrics is going to be dependent on that. Until I know what I want, what my organization wants, clearly these are only on papers. And that's where we tend to find a disconnect between taking a technology and we realize that, hey, something in past was much easier, right? Change is never easy, but change is also the inevitable. And hence it's important to understand what is your need, what are your critical measures of success, what do you define, what does your organization define as success, and then define those metrics.
True. Would you like to share your experience, Madhvi, on this?
I think it's a very, very good question. And it's like, ever since I started my career, there was always this question on how do you measure learning effectiveness, right? And that question still is yet to be answered. But I think on tech, there's a little bit more sort of possibility of measuring. One is, of course, like Nitin said, what were you wanting to deliver in the first place when you introduced the technology? Did you achieve that? That is one. Second is usage. Simple. If you got a tool that is for employee development, which you automated, how many people are actually using it? What's the employee feedback on that? If it's not working, then probably time to move on to the next one. I mean, things like that. I think those are things that, to my mind, would be the measures. Very good question, though. And I think something that when you're investing, a question you should answer upfront. How will we measure success of this?
True. I'll take next question, which is coming from Priyanka. Yesterday, an article has mentioned that AI will replace few jobs, which includes recruitment. How can tech work hand in hand instead of replacing?
It's always been, and I take it with a pinch of salt. And why that grin on my face is because I think as far as human history goes, there has always been enhancement and involvement, right? While technology tends to replace certain jobs which become mundane in certain fashion, there are more than required jobs created as well, right? I think anything that is repeated in nature, anything that does not need human intellect will eventually get replaced by AI or by technology, right? What is important is to understand how do we keep ourselves going and sort of probing ourselves internally to say, hey, where am I adding value? And not getting complacent or comfortable to say that, okay, I brought in technology to screen candidates, my job is done. No, your job goes to the next level to understand strategy, to take the right decisions and stuff like that. And that goes in every sphere for that matter.
Very, very, very true. I think the technology is making the work deliver efficiently. Okay. At the same time, the horizon and the span is increasing. So everybody is having a work and his pie. Madhu, would you like to share your experience on this?
So I'll just share that. And if you heard me earlier, some of sessions I would have shared this example. So many years ago, there was, this whole banking automation where banks became automated, right? This was, I think, 2000. So much before some of you were born, probably. And there was this big fear that, people will lose their jobs and, there'll be like, and I remember that most of the banks had issues with their union saying that if you automate, then how will, what will we do? And automation happened. Not a single job got reduced, not a single job. Because, I think we have to understand, I personally feel the number of jobs that are there today are more than what was there 20 years ago. I mean, who would have thought you had jobs like influencer and, the other technology enabled jobs, right? I mean, there's just so much that's available. But it's a good question that if I'm handling a particular process manually and it gets automated, then, do I have a job? Probably not. You have to look at what is the next, how do you build your skills to, to work, and what are the skills required in the new world that you will need to, keep that role or grow in that role, right? That's my view on that.
No, I agree with, I think, very, very rightly put by both of you. It's not that the automation is going to replace the job, but it's going to upskill the efficiency and the work process. We'll take the next questions from Navni. What will be the near future for HRs as AI is taking place everywhere, and what measures can be taken for sustainability?
Madhu, you want to go or should I go ahead first?
You go ahead, Abhi. You're an expert on AI, so please go ahead.
I think, this sort of addresses the very fundamental of the mindset. Technology will always enable us. Technology is going to create more plenty for us, right? All the new HRIMS system, ATS, chatbots, name a technology and a platform has only evolved and has only given access to more. It's like saying, a new law of income tax coming. It's hardly a percentage of population that gets covered through it, right? Similarly is the case. The universe is very vast from all technologies getting covered, and hence the job. So again, alluding back to the same point that it's very important. How are we keeping ourselves abreast and finding how we can utilize technology and not let technology utilize us? So far, you have that answer, and no right wrong solution. Trust me on that. It's a evolvement. We all need to get evolved. Once you set that mindset and that pace in your mind, it's a win-win altogether.
Right. I think it's the other way to put that is that Alexa is only supporting the function. Okay, Alexa is not taking over the job.
And I just like to add, Sunilji, I had read this very beautiful line in Harvard Business Review on AI and implementation of AI. There was a very nice line said that technology augments, doesn't replace human effort. So eventually, whatever new tech is coming, it's actually going to create more create better environment and better things for the existing set of people and not replace.
Yeah, very true. It augments.
Yeah.
I have next questions. We'll move on to next questions from Mohit. What are the top HR tech trends that would be relevant in near future? Madhvi, would you like to take that?
On HR tech, I think at least what I've picked up is more automation and more use of AI, like the stuff that I talked about, the learning hub piece. I think that will gain a momentum from a learning perspective. One, even from a talent management perspective, I think as we look at talent development, how do we customize our talent development for our people, right? So I think that will probably have tech interventions on that. I mean, there's enough on engagement right now, but I think there's a whole new development that I'm seeing on the on talent development within a company. Use of AI on that is what I'm picking up.
Okay. Nitin, would you like to say anything on this? What are the top new trends which are coming up?
See, I think all of them are there. One trend that you will see for sure is rebuilding on the trends themselves. That will happen. Everything that you will see will constantly itself improve. I mean, look at 10 years back, HRMS system versus that are there now, right? Look at some that are there. And I saw one of the questions which mentioned that how is ChatGPT going to be? And I was sort of very curious about that question. So I'm skipping the ladder to address that. I think, yes, ChatGPT, or for that matter, any platform is going to impact. It's going to impact positively. I personally, as a transformation leader, think that every technology will have a positive impact. How much of impact it's going to make to you is how well you adopt it, how relevant it is to you, and how well are you doing that change management to bring that outcome. But yes, in short, is ChatGPT going to have an impact on recruitment? Yes, it's going to have an impact. It's going to have a positive impact on recruitment. By the time it has a complete impact, we now have ChatGPT 4 as well. And you might have other versions of it coming across or something else. Yes, positives is the keyword here.
True. I have next question, which is related to the campus hiring. Okay, is there any specific solutions which you think do you expect in campus hiring? Are you looking at some digital solutions taking up in the campus hiring?
Just speaking from how it used to happen in healthcare, we had medical representatives visit the doctor and stuff like that, right? Similar was the case with colleges. The more number of hiring you have to do, the more number of colleges you have to visit, go through that task of group descriptions, presentations, XYZ stuff. There's a paradigm shift in it, right? A complete paradigm shift. There are so many platforms, and I think highly effective platforms, if I were to say, which will help you get not the top talent, right, but the right talent for your organization from the larger system that is there, So in short, I think, yes, there are a lot of platforms available, whether it is for evaluation, whether it is for initial filtering, whether it is for engaging with them, whether it is ensuring that their journey has been amazingly great. I think people are talking about experiential know-how right now. So that's very important. And all these platforms are very solidly these days equipped with all of these tenets for that matter.
True, very true. Madhu, would you like to add here?
Certainly, I think there's just so much that's available, and I'll just give you an example. So this year we have 800 grads joining us. The camp from campus, they'll be joining us through the year, and of course the selection process was last year for them, and the process is partly automated, partly there's the manual intervention of actually sometimes going to campus or even doing the final interviews on campus, etc. We are looking at what can we do better, because if the requirements were to go up, we can't sustain the same model. So again, we're looking at what is the business requirement and what is it that the fresh campus people look for, and trying to find what's the best sort of process which is effective, efficient, and of course delivers the results. So we're still on that journey, I would say.
I think, Sunil, just to add before we move to the next question, and I keep alluding the point of an ecosystem, right? A lot of ways, right? While there are a lot of when people think about campus, we only think about recruitment, but that's not where the buck ends. That's not where the ball stops, right? It's an overall journey. How those people have their engagement till the time they onboard, how was the onboarding experience, how well did they do during the initial period of learning, right? Did we equip them proactively to come in the system, right? To go through the learning journey, how well they were transitioned into production, and then how did they do in production? So one of the good practices that we have here at Indegene is that we work on the entire life cycle, from taking of the demand for campus all the way into learning and development, screening, production once they are there, and how they are also growing, because essentially that talent is going to be your future talent for your organization. They are going to be the future leaders. They are going to be the high performing workforce, and hence choosing that right spectrum of interventions, or like I said, the mindset is very important when you're hiring for campus, and all these platforms are highly equipped to do all that.
Very true, very true. I think there's as you rightly said, there's a paradigm shift in the way the campus hiring is taking place. Okay, what used to be previously and now, there's quite a bit of change. Thanks for that insight, Nitin. Next question is, how can tech help highest level of attrition that we are seeing in last 2 years? Madhvi, you have been hiring a huge number.
No, tech, I think, helps a lot in a lot of ways, because you're able to get real-time insights from people as they stay in the organization as well, or as they leave. There are a lot of tools that are available in terms of getting feedback from people as to what makes them stay in the organization, what makes them leave. I think that data really helps in the real-time analysis. Also, there are exit interviews that happen for people who actually leave. What are the reasons they kind of left the organization? Those insights are really useful, and then you can plan your interventions, business and HR interventions, to address those gaps. And you can sort of also review your whole hiring process. What's just the talent that you really want? Will this talent really be, something that will be, best for the organization, or will be best for them as an org? So we kind of fine tune our hiring also on that, and fine tune our HR plans around that as well. But yes, we get really good insights. Again, there are various automation platforms that are available. We're not using something really that high tech right now, but we are looking at seeing what is the best way we can get that, because the exit interview process, while I do think that automation can help, but I'm just getting a clear yes or no sometimes doesn't help. Sometimes the conversation with the employee is more important, to get some really deeper insights, because when somebody fills a form, they don't really share the deeper sort of reasons why they have left or why they're staying, right? So yeah.
See, I think attrition is one of the key KPIs for any HR, and I understand where this question is really coming from. I think look at technologies and platform for attrition, which are non-reactive but proactive, which are indicators. Attrition happens much before when a person resigns, if you really ask me, right? The moment they make up their mind. Hence, investing in technology and platforms which are leading indicators, which tell about the mindset of a person. And this I mentioned in one of the questions earlier as well, how they are interacting in the system, how they are responding, I'm like, almost a decade back, we implemented a system in my last organization in Genpact around the early warning signal, right? And that system itself has evolved a lot over a period of time. But I think it's always important for attrition to be preemptive, proactive rather than reactive. So while obviously exit interviews help you understand and do the RCA where it goes, we also know that a lot of exit interviews are there because people want to give the exit interview and they don't want to close it on a bad note because they know that there is going to be a feedback, and we be candid about it, right? And hence it might not give you the right problem area. The right problem area comes on how the employee has been living its life cycle in the organization, I think. And platforms and technologies are there, predictive enough to give HR that insight. Once you're able to figure out things with those pieces, you will be able to solve for what's coming forward, not really attrition. Attrition is not the problem. Problem is why people are moving on. And some of the attrition could be good attrition as well, right? All we know, because they could have different aspirations and stuff like that, or different aspects. But essentially, this is what I would think about it.
Very, 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 very valid point which you have put. I think this HR heads are breaking their heads on this particular topic for quite some time. And you rightly mentioned there are some platforms. Would you like to throw some highlights, throw some lights on those platforms or how those models are working, etc.?
Okay, so I was reading the question.
Just wanted to take this topic a little further.
Yeah, from RJ. So one, like I said, it's a early warning system which has different spheres of indicators. Now, those indicators are taken from exit interviews. Those indicators are taken from how an employee is engaged, how the person is hired, what was the experience in the journey during the time that they were in the learning mode, in the initial transition that they were doing into production. All those can assimilate into a group of questions which can then be evolved over a period of time. And these are not really very high-tech platforms. It's something that the organization can have a team of tech folks, or if you want to buy a technology from outside, you can get it. This is a very nascent stage sort of a platform which will help you give those indications. I think one of the related questions that I see from RJ is, if these systems are already in place, why is attrition at the highest? It's like saying, I had food, now why am I feeling hungry again?
Exactly.
And please understand, attrition is higher not because the tools are ineffective. The attrition is higher because of multiple factors. There could be higher volatility in the market, more demand supply breakdown. There is a different talent supply chain that is impacting it. Or there could be a lot of policies within the system that are impacting attrition. There is a way managers are interacting. There is a different change in aspiration. I'm like, our previous generation used to focus more around stability of job than it was money, and now it is work-life balance. So all those things are also changing. And something that I said earlier, technology will only be a lead indicator. It will only be a catalyst for all of us as HRs to take the right decisions and to make the right investments, right?
True. I think very exciting topic, and this can go for long. Okay, we'll move further to the next question. This is coming from Abhay. This is for Madhvi. You specifically mentioned that there is a lot of more solution tech need to come with. Any areas where you look at the solution or the gap which is available?
I won't call it gap because there are like tech solutions for almost all HR processes. But I think like the integrated one is something that I think what we need to look at. So how do all these tech interventions, so if I took a campus tech solution, will it talk to my talent development section, solution or whatever? So that integration is one part, but there are some, I would say gaps, but there are some areas that HR tech can explore. The predictive attrition, I think Nitin mentioned there are some solutions, but maybe more than that. predictive solutions on, why people stay and why people leave. So that I believe there was some work done in terms of, where there was a technology which enabled understanding and identifying people who are kind of wanting to leave the organization, and then HR can intervene or business can intervene to understand why that is and address that. But I think still more work in that space. I think the other one that I talked about is the talent development piece. How do we get more insights into existing talent? So our talent, which you identify as talent, what do we do for them individually on that? So because today what happens is that the line manager and that individual sit together and say, okay, this is my development need, and they log into a system, right? But is there a better way of doing that process? And is a better way of, getting people to do that self-learning, that self whatever, and voluntary learning in that sense, not something that the blind manager says, do this and it's done. So I think a little bit more work around that. I think personalized interventions, while there is standardization, but how much can you individualize as well is what I would say. But there are these spaces where I think there is scope for HR tech to do more. And I know the companies are exploring. I know I've been there. There's a lot of work. Biswati mentioned about the potential of HR tech, and I think there's just a lot that can be done.
Sure.
I also
Yeah, Vicky.
Thanks. So my take on this would be to answer Abhay's question is, okay, there is a lot of digitization has done a lot, but now is the time for how what all things digitization couldn't do. That's the gap which intelligence can do. For example, digitization cannot actually help you figure out the happiness of your employees or your team, but AI or intelligence can actually do that. So probably the answer is over there. Okay, what all things we couldn't probably achieve with digitization. That is the current gap. And of course, tomorrow when intelligence comes in, there'll be some more tech that will create more gap and room for more developments in this area.
True. We have two last questions now. One is from Vinita coming on how ChatGPT will impact recruiting and hiring. Do you have anything to share, Nitin?
I think I had fast tracked on that question earlier, already addressed.
Yes, you did. Okay. Because last time we were talking about this ChatGPT. Okay. We move on to the last one. How we can train middle-aged employees with new technology. Madhvi, we were mentioning about when the bank went into automation a few years ago, and the middle-aged employees were thinking there would be no work for them if this automation goes. Would you like to add something more on that?
Let me clarify, it wasn't middle-aged people. It was people who are doing the jobs that are a more sort of manual. I think there was a lot of intervention. There was a training and development provided to all the people who were, whose processes were going to get automated to be able to do work that was then that became available, and that training was very important. And that was the first time actually when banking as an industry got automated. It's nothing to do with just one organization. And I think that sort of taught us that you can actually reskill, redevelop people at any point of time. And like I said, people are keen to learn, people are keen to grow. And today, I don't think we have that problem anymore, because there's just so much information that's available, and people do. In the last, I think 5 or 6 years, people have understood the importance of technology, and people, in fact, they have people coming to me saying, this has happened, and this is happening in this company. Can we get this solution here? And people are kind of sort of well-read and well-trained. I think that training has to be constant. And like I said, for us, I think it's more about opening people up to the possibilities of technology. And when there's a technology intervention, making sure that it's, there's enough communication on why we are doing something, what it will enable, what it will do, and what it will not do. And somebody then talked about, Workday and Excel. I think sometimes it's about the education of why we're implementing a particular technology. I think that's really important for people to understand, So for example, somebody asked me the other day, when we go to campus, so many, many years ago when, companies went to campus, they did these tests and group discussions. Those are not done anymore by some companies. So can we reintroduce? And because, that person wasn't aware of why we are doing things in a certain way. So I had to sort of explain, what was the genesis of changing some processes that we were, following in the past, and why we've changed them, and how these have become more efficient and more effective. Sometimes it's just about that education. I hope I've answered. I think I've gone a little beyond, but I hope I've answered the question.
No, I think you have covered a variety of the topics, and you have covered very well. Okay, I think the change management acceptance is far more important, and the communication is more critical there. Yeah, Nitin, sorry, go ahead.
I would say that it's not middle-aged employees.
Yeah.
and I keep reiterating the fact it's the mindset. A lot of times in an organization, when you do not introduce regular changes, and when I say regular changes, I don't mean for the sake of doing it, but implementing various technology areas, uh, re-evolving yourself and looking at in different dimensions, you become mindset stagnant. I think that's what Shivani you wanted to tell. It's more about people who are mindset stagnant, and them is the most difficult part. And for that, what is important is having the right nudge and the culture within the organization. So far, you have the right culture within an organization, uh, uh, and focus a lot on a learning mindset. You will never have this trouble about training people to new technology. Nobody gets comfortable with change. We always want to understand something in that, and try and reap the fruits of it. I think so far we know that the fruits are really in evolving yourself. This will never come as a problem.
Very, very true. Thanks. I think we have been having very good, smart and exciting questions from the group today, and so was our panel. I think they were also very excited to offer and guide us and give their insights. Thanks, Nitin, for offering for the group to reach out to you on LinkedIn anytime. Okay, this was a very good gesture. Okay, thanks, everyone. Ranu, I give it back to you.
I think thanks everybody. I'm sure it was an insightful one. Thanks Madhvi and Nitin for being giving your time and getting the session done. Thanks a lot. Let's stay connected, and I'm sure there'll be a lot to learn as we talk and as we keep talking.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And all-
Thanks, Madhvi. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Madhvi. Thanks, Nitin.
Thanks,
Have a great
everybody.
weekend. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.